Hi everybody and welcome back to Greater Manchester Stories. This episode's guest is Dorothy Lord, who's got a story around something I take really seriously, and it's safeguarding, young people. That should be everybody's priority no matter where you work, safeguarding young people. So first of all, let me welcome Dorothy to the show. Hi Dorothy.
Hello, Nick. Thank you for inviting me to speak.
No problem. I've seen a little bit of your stuff online. So first of all, I just mentioned then your stories around safeguarding. Can you give us a brief description of what was going on, where you worked? You don't have to name the place you worked, but I believe it was a preschool. What is your story?
Right, I whistle blew because I was witnessing lots of physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, and data protection breaches, phone policy breaches, which came into force regarding what had happened with Vanessa George and the preschool in Plymouth.
There's a whole list of things there. So it was a preschool. So is this a private preschool? Is this state run?
It's state, they get vouchers off the government, for the children.
Right. So it's a private run.
I always class it as, because they get the vouchers, they're funded by the government, for so many hours. But it's in a Methodist church.
Right. Yeah. So it looks like it's a privately run preschool that's funded by government vouchers. Each kid claims a voucher.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. That makes sense. So you mentioned physical abuse. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Illegal restraining of children. And a lot of it were just to stop them speaking to their Auntie Dolly. That's who I am to the children, which is not very good for communication. Key workers, because I was key workers to certain children that I had to do recordings on, and they were being stopped physically from going near me. Some were left in wet clothes for quite some time. That comes under neglect, but it can affect them physically. A lot of them were coming in with illnesses, which they weren't dealing with, that they shouldn't have been doing. Their well-being weren't being the first and foremost. There's lots of various things that have happened. Even the staff were being bullied in front of me, and I was trying to protect them as well. It weren't just the children.
Right. So when you said that the children being stopped from going near you,
Physically held till they screamed and run off crying.
and why were they being stopped going near you?
I think they were making my life difficult with the children because I was whistleblowing, and they found out because the chair of the committee, Reverend Davis, was telling the manager, and it was the manager who was allowing it to go on. She was doing some of it herself.
Right. Is there any other times children were physically abused that didn't involve going near you?
Yes, there was other staff they were doing it to, stopping them from going to the key workers, stopping them, from doing certain activities, dragging them away from what they really wanted to do, and things like that.
Right. And who were the staff doing this? I mean, I don't want names. I'm talking about were these professionally trained staff or were these
One with the safeguarding, the designated safeguarding officer at last protected disclosure I disclosed on in 2013.
right? So we're talking about 10 years ago.
Yeah, I've been fighting it for quite some time. They've ignored me. I'm still waiting for the lady from the council early years to get back to me from the summer in 2013, but I had disclosed before then in 2012, whereas Ofsted re-registered them with a protected disclosure, and they'd served a 5-year penalty for that failing, and they re-registered them 2 months after.
So you whistleblowed and you whistleblowed to the council?
I followed the whistleblowing policy procedure. I went to the manager first. And if it's the manager, you have to go to committee.
Yep.
Then you have to go to the council. And if they ignore it, you have to go to Ofsted. And that's where the disclosure is classed as a protected disclosure, because I went to the subscribed body that are legally duty bound to protect them.
Right. So you followed the procedure to the manager, to the council, to Ofsted, and along that process.
No, I followed the committee after the manager because it's committee run.
Right. So manager, committee. Then did you say council?
Council, and then
Right. So you did all 4 steps. Along the way, when you reported this, along the way, did any of these groups, organisations support you, listen to you, or do you feel you was ignored all along?
I was ignored. That's why I ended up at Ofsted, because I was still waiting in 2013 for early years to get back to me with my concern.
Right. So what have Ofsted done in the last 10 years now?
Well, Ofsted, I've had more disclosures, but my first one was also witnessed by a parent in that July. It came back we're in May, but it came back in July that they'd served the 5-year penalty. Then in September 2012, 2 months after, they'd re-registered them so the parents wouldn't find out. And we are closed when I work in Red Robin. We are closed from July to September. So the penalty has not been put on it's supposed to be disclosed and open so the parents can see, so they're aware that things need to improve.
Right. It sounds like to me they got that penalty, closed down for 2 months, and then reopened as if it was a new business.
Yeah, they've made it a report. They've actually put on the thing, if you look at the Ofsted report then, they put on it's committee run now in 2012. Well, it was committee run from 2008. They've done nothing but lie, and they lied on oath at the tribunal.
Right. So what are you waiting for now? Are you waiting for Ofsted to do something else, or just to get back to you?
Ofsted are still ignoring me. They've ignored me all throughout the procedure. I've been ignored by GMP because I was told to go to them, which I have, and they've ignored it. I've been to Andy Burnham. He sent me to Moss Side for a solicitor. I phoned for a solicitor. When I turned up, the fella said, I cannot help you, I'm sorry. And I asked him why. He said, because I'm a barrister, I can't do litigancy. You should have asked for a solicitor. I asked for a solicitor. I've been stonewalled ever since I've whistleblown. It's been a nightmare, Nick. In fact,
It sounds like it. So let's get back to Ofsted. So Ofsted have ignored you. What does that mean? Does that mean they've never replied to you? Or have Ofsted saying this is closed as far as we're concerned? What have Ofsted saying?
Ofsted is, Ofsted just re-registered them. They tried covering it up, that penalty, and saying they'd done it after they'd served the 5 years. Well, they hadn't served the 5 years. They hadn't even served 2 months. It must have been about 6 weeks, because like I said, we're shut from July to September. But they've opened it as if it's a new business, and they've covered, Ofsted have covered up safeguarding failings along with the Golden Council and the rest, the preschool, the church, because it's in a church. I've been to various people, and I've been refused legal aid, and that's what I really want. I want it to go in court so that the under fives do get that voice, what they're entitled to, because they cannot really speak for themselves, Nick.
Yeah, no, of course they can't. Of course they can't. And that's the quagmire we're in. How do you fight for justice and fight on behalf of children when obviously you're not a millionaire, so you can't fund it yourself? There's no way you can go to get free legal aid. All you can do, and which is what you've done, is follow the procedures and expect those external organisations, which is Ofsted, to do their job. And it sounds like they've not done their job.
No, they haven't, and I believe they're being overhauled now for some reason. and they're letting places self-evaluate. I think it's going to be a very big mistake. I think Ofsted will do the same, come back as a new company with the same people running it. That's my concern now.
Which is a good question, because that's what businesses do all the time. You know, businesses can go bankrupt, you close everything down, the debt gets wiped off, and you open up again the next day under a slightly different name. And it sounds like they're doing exactly the same, except there's no debt. They're doing it for their reputation.
Like to the children, you know, what is the price?
So, what's the latest communication with Ofsted? What have they said to you?
They're ignoring me. I've sent them a copy of the disclosure I have, the proof of disclosure, because they're trying to cover up and pretend it never happened. I've shown it people and they said, you never worked there. I worked there 25 years, but it looks like I never worked there, Nick. I'm not, you know, I'm not Auntie Dolly anymore. I've had to come to terms with that. But they're still under fives being not neglected by
Have you spoken to your local MP?
Jim McMahon. Yep. It took me 22 months to get an appointment and he wouldn't even look at the evidence, Nick.
I've heard nothing but bad reports about Jim McMahon, honestly.
His secretary, they don't like whistleblowers. As soon as that whistleblower word, it's a swear word. I've been disregarded in my own community, Nick, and I don't want to live where I have to live.
Yeah. So what's next for you then? What's your next step? What's your plan now for this?
And I can't get legal advice, and that's what I need, because I need to get my life back as well. My life.
Right, so I think that's the point of this podcast then. For anybody who's watching this, if you're a solicitor, if you've got a family member who's a solicitor, get in contact with me or reach out to Dorothy online, and let's see if we can get her some quality advice, because that's what she needs. She's done the right thing by trying to protect children. The least we can do is try to protect her.
Oh, thank you, Nick, because a lot of people have treated me like I haven't done the right thing. I'm very grateful.
No, you have done the right thing. And even if it turns out that you're wrong, I'm not saying you are, but let's say it turns out you're wrong, well, that's fine. At least you did what needed to be done in your eyes, because there's too many people who see things going wrong and go, oh, I'm not getting involved in case I'm wrong. I'm not. No. That's how children get abused, by people thinking like that. It's always best to err on the side of caution and report things. And if you turn out to be wrong, you turn out to be wrong. But at least a child wasn't being abused and you ignored it.
Yeah, every child matters, every one of them.
Exactly. Absolutely. Every child matters. And that's what we need to remember all the time. Right, let's see if we can get you some help. Let's see if we can get you some legal advice.
I appreciate any help off any, you know, because I want it to, so that it never happens to any other children from Ofsted. And I want to go to court, whether it means I take Ofsted, but I want the right for them children to be heard. I've been refused an appeal and I'm entitled to one. For them children, I believe they are.
Well, let's see what we can do to help you. If I become mayor next year, then drop me an email saying, do you remember me in that podcast? Do you remember? And I'll see what I can do if I become mayor next year. But thank you very much, Dorothy, for coming on and telling us your Greater Manchester story.
Oh, thank you for listening. Thank you very much. And thank John Lawrence for letting me use his stuff, because I can't do it. Thank you.
No problem. Speak to you soon.